Bitte nehmen Sie Platz.
Please have a seat.
Sehr geehrter Herr Bundespräsident, sehr
Mr.
geehrter
President,
Herr Vizekanzler,
Vice Chancellor,
Hochfestgesellschaft.
distinguished guests.
Heute ist ein großer Tag für die
Today
Technische
is a big
Universität
day
Wien.
for the Vienna University
Wir
of
haben uns auf diesen
Technology.
Tag sozusagen 200 Jahre
We prepared
vorbereitet.
for this day for
Und es
200
ist mir
years,
eine große Freude,
and I'm
Sie
very
heute hier alle
pleased to
begrüßen
welcome
zu
you
können.
all today.
Gleichzeitig
At
möchte
the
ich
same
Ihnen allen
time,
für Ihr Kommen
I would like to
danken.
thank you all for attending.
Besonders herzlich begrüße
In
ich die
particular, I would like to
Kolleginnen und
welcome
Kollegen,
the
die uns
colleagues
an unseren Hauptstandorten begleiten und dieser akademischen
who
Feier ebenfalls beiwohnen.
join us at our main locations. The Imperial and Royal Polytechnical Institute, which was opened in 1815, was a child of its days. The need for federal administration, the military, and the need for labor with technical experience and the industrial advantage of England led to the fact that since 1797 there were considerations to establish a technical college in the imperial capital. This was delayed by the Napoleonic Wars, and Emperor Franz II commissioned an expert opinion on establishing a technical college. The first drafts of different professors did not meet the expectations of the authorities, and in March 1810, Mr. Josef Brechtel, who was a professor of chemistry and physics in Vienna, started to draft a plan for such a school. The first draft was available already after 1 year, and after several changes in 1817 the imperial approval was given to establish the Imperial and Royal Polytechnical Institute, which was in effect until 1865. Mr. Brechtel was appointed the first director in 1814. The premises was already purchased at the today's Karlsplatz. Teaching started in 1815 by 8 professors in a makeshift building. In 1816, the basis for today's building was laid. The building was the first in Central Europe where there was gas lighting, and it was a project of Mr. Brechtel. The establishment of military and technical schools in the early 19th century was done because there was a need for experts. This question is related to the ideas of Brechtel about such a school. His idea, which was incorporated in the Constitution of 1818, provided for a university-like school for professors and teachers where with tasks that go beyond just teaching. The school was conceived as a national institute, that is a central institution where the tasks go beyond the monarchy, so the study programs should be as comprehensive as possible. The institute also had the function of a conservatory for art and the industry. So there were imperial products were collected, and there was also a technical library. It was also an art authority, and it drafted technical expert opinions and opinions on patents. Our collection of privileges comprehenses all the documents that were awarded in the monarchy. And the commission is still to make it available to the interested public. In its function as an association to promote the industry, the institute was to take over some general tasks as well, but this was not put into practice. But in 1839, the Lower Austrian Association for Industry was founded. The tasks were implemented in a two-tier system. There was a 2-year school which was supposed to prepare students for the university, and a technical department for further studies. This is the preliminary school for the later to be university. The unusual formal and legal equalization of professors and students to university members made sure that it was as similar to a university as possible. And people wore uniforms and had similar salaries. Students did not have to do military service if they behaved in an appropriate way. If you look at all the tasks which Mr. Prechtl assigned to the Institute, you need to draw parallels to the present. Our terms may be different, but if you look at the historic context, and Prechtl talks about research, teaching, innovations, and also responsible science and citizen science as the responsibilities of the then Polytechnical School. His idea of education and training is opposed by the concept by Alexander Humboldt, whose idea of research and teaching took the personality also into consideration. When we talk about the economization of the universities, this topic is still much discussed as it was 200 years. And then we have to ask, what is the role of universities today and what will it be in 10 or 20 years? Will most of the universities be institutions as they are modeled on the United States, or will they provide the business world and the industry with excellently skilled people, or will general knowledge and expertise be the main objective? What will be the target groups? Will it be the masses or will it be elites? And then the question follows of differentiation in the tertiary sector, which is extremely burning in Austria, because there is rather the tendency of equalization, and this would inevitably lead to lower standards. These general considerations, the objectives of which preclude each other to some extent, are a challenge to Austria's politics and to the universities, and it cannot be resolved easily. Education is often understood as a commodity in these days. And we have to ask, what is the relevance of Humboldt's idea of education? Humboldt postulates that the science should allow for education, and this leads to the task for universities to further develop society through the universities. This is opposed by an idea which was at the end of the 19th century Mr. John Locke described in the following way. The education to become a gentleman is in 4 dimensions: virtue, wisdom, way of life, and knowledge. Someone who is educated in these areas behaves appropriately and is useful. Our first conflict is the question, what is our main task? Advancing education through science, or making people fit for the business, for the working world? if our declared object is education, then research is something we take for granted for our education. But this is not the normal in the real world. In the United States, where we are often compared to, there are 100 universities that are opposed by 4,800 universities whose main task is to educate the students. A third aspect that we have to look at is the number of student numbers. Globally, the numbers between 1960 and 2000 multiplied by more than 7 times. In Austria, the number of students between 2004 and 2014 increased by 14%, at the TU Vienna by 66%. Why do we have to keep an eye on this development? When we talk about research-based teaching, we have to look at the resources available. One catchword of the past few months is the entrepreneurial university. We think we know what we mean by that. A university that promotes and demands entrepreneurial spirit. Such kind of spirit is oriented on the market. Are we developing into a market-oriented university? And is a market-oriented university reconcilable with our ideas? Innovation research is also demanded, and fundamental research only in the extent that can be promising to this type of research. So the objective of education is also changing, and this is not reconcilable with the idea of research-based teaching. The pressure to move away from education towards professional training is very strong. Just think about the question of international dimensions of programs and open online courses and so forth. Depending on whether you demand more education or general professional training, the access has also to be assessed, because everybody has the right to go to university, but everywhere where the institutional resources are not sufficient, and this is the case at many Austrian study programs already. Academia and freedom are prerequisites that universities are oriented on the scientific logic. So if research and teaching serve the individual, there cannot be an autonomy of the university and only limited academic freedom. The limitation of the innovation, the term innovation, was already mentioned. We have a strong focus on innovation. At this point, we have to ask whether universities of technologies are educational institutes or make people fit for the working life, and this is difficult to answer. Austria's universities see themselves as research universities. If we look at the beginnings of the Polytechnical Institute, the objective back then was education, and later the objectives developed until 1904, and when the right of promotion of doctoral degrees was established in 1904, the university was almost equal to other universities, which was completed in 1904. And the rector was awarded the title Magnificence. Now let's go back to the present. The technical universities are walking a fine line today. In Europe, the 2020 business strategy, which is reflected in the 2020 program as well, a strategy can be seen, which is a triangle between research, teaching, and innovation. And this applies to our university as well. This triangle of knowledge puts knowledge, innovation, research, and teaching at the same level. The fine line for us is, even under financial constraints, to have enough freedom for fundamental research. As University of Technology, we will always be in the middle between the market and the research-based university. At our university, we expanded step by step our research possibilities. We have 5 research focuses currently. We are also implementing a strategy that aims to added value chains. In the past few years, in some research areas, they were developed and put into practice. One of our main accomplishments for the society, in addition to education, is the transfer of technology. We are at the beginning of the added value chain of innovation, but the actual innovation takes place outside the university. The TU Wien, this is technology for people, literally and in a figurative sense. We assume responsibility. Technology is not an end in itself, but a contribution to resolve the big challenges, and this is what we are working for. Assuming responsibilities also means to face the discussions about the future of our universities, and this is a great occasion to develop a vision for the future. I can assure you, when you look at the history of our university, you get a sense that everything has happened before already. I would like to give you a few significant examples. Brechtel's freedom of teaching and of land. This would mean 29,000 irregular students. For all who wish to reintroduce this principle, I'm saying this, lectures had to be attended regularly in 1818. If students did not do that, they did not get a certificate. As there were no courses, the total of the certificates was relevant for the qualification. Attention certificates for students who attended regularly were sufficient to get a job in the business world. 150 years ago, the professors of the Polytechnical Institute complained about lacking knowledge, for example, in elementary mathematics. 2 years after we moved into this building, it was already too small, and there is always a need for new construction projects, and it has been the largest reorganization project since or until 2018. 150 years, this is the close ties to the Austrian Academy of Sciences, which was established in 1847, and they had rooms in the Polytechnical Institute back then. Among the first members, there were some professors of the Polytechnical School, and this is very remarkable because back then the scientific value of technological subjects was doubted. Now I would like to talk about the future. Visions for 2025. This is a process that we started this week in order to develop an image across faculties, how we want to study, to do research, and to work in the future, and where we want to see our university in 10 years' time. This discussion is an important strategic instrument to tear down the barriers between departments, and it's an important contribution to the research strategy of our university. In order to compete internationally, we need an attractive research environment which comprises people and facilities. This is where our concept kicks in, where we want to position our university in the national and international context. We are following the highest standards and moral and ethical standards. And this quality claim that we have to all staff and to all students and to all faculty members. The most important elements is the unity of research and teaching, active human resource policy, and promoting staff members' diversity with regard to gender, origin, and culture. To turn the university into a meeting place, a place of respect and dialogue with the society, and should develop in that way. Our graduates and our staff members are more than ever self-determined, they are curious, they are creative, they are well educated and ready to assume societal responsibilities. The basis for this development is a 200-year foundation which from the beginning was built on the pillars of research, teaching and innovation. We invite all our partners and friends to take the next step for another 200 of successful years. Thank you for your attention.
Distinguished guests, we will have DI Bianca Ullmann as our moderator for today's festivities. Please welcome her with me. Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome you very warmly. Thank you so much. I would have never thought that I could learn some more today, because this historical summary was very exciting to follow. Thank you very much, Mrs. Rector. I'm very happy that as a member of the TU Wien, I can participate in this day, and it's a great honor for me that I can sort of guide you through this festivity today. And I would like to start out with a message of greeting by Carlos Moedas, who is EU Commissioner for Research, Innovation and Science. He says,
"Congratulations to TU Wien on 200 years of scientific excellence and technology for people. I'm delighted that you're focusing your vision 2025 plus on diversity and openness, the pathway to innovation in the 21st century and the center of my strategic priorities for European research, science and innovation." Danke für diesen Gruß.
Thank you, Mr. Moedas, for this greeting to us. Let us now move on to a point where technology and music collide. I would like to address to you a few words of introduction. The Orchestra of the University of Technology has composed a piece of music for trombosonic. If you don't know what that is, I didn't know it either, and I did some research, and I will explain to you. This is a musical instrument, and this musical instrument transfers the movements of the person who plays it through an acceleration sensor and ultrasound sensors and other components into acoustic signals. And this musical instrument, or this synthesizer that is wheeled and steered by movements, was developed by Mr. Oliver Hödl here at the TU Wien. The competition that was open for this piece of music was open to all musicians, and there was a jury who decided who would be the winner. The conductor of our orchestra, the solo musician, a representative of the orchestra, and two professors of the Institute for Composition and Electrical Music from the University of Applied Arts of Vienna were part of the jury. And this is our winner, the academic overture for orchestra and trombosonic, composed by Mr. Dietmar Helmich. Thanks to the size of the orchestra, because the orchestra really wouldn't have fit into this room, we have recorded this piece of music so that we can listen to it here, and you can listen to it live at another occasion in the course of our festivities. We will now listen to this recording that, and I will quote our composer here, an academic overture for a university that is more than 200 years old and that stands for progress, is crucial, and we see that it is played on a newly developed instrument so many years after the building in which Joseph Brahms died has been replaced by our university. Thank you for this innovative connection between creativity in technology and music. It was quite interesting to listen to. I would now like to ask the Minister for Science, Research and Economy to step up and give his speech to us today. Welcome.
Sehr geehrter Herr Bundespräsident,
Mr. President,
sehr geehrte Frau Rektorin Seidler,
Ms. Rector Seidler,
Rektorinnen und Rektoren der anderen
the
Universitäten,
rectors of all the other
hohe
universities
Festversammlung,
and distinguished
eigentlich
guests.
nach den Ausführungen
After
der
what
Frau
we've
Rektorin
heard
muss ich
from
auch sagen,
Ms.
nachdem
Seidler, I
wir
would
alle
have to
Herren werden,
also
die 4 Stunden
see
zum
that
Gentleman
all men
durchlaufen
here,
haben.
I'm sure,
Ladies and
have
gentlemen,
taken the 4 steps to become a
ich freue
gentleman,
mich heute,
according to
bei
John
Ihnen
Locke.
Gast sein zu dürfen
I'm
und
very
darf auch
pleased to
an
be
einen
one of the
zweiten
guests here
Punkt
today, and I would
anknüpfen.
like to
Frau Rektorin, Sie
take
haben
on
recht, auch
another
ich
point
habe
that Ms. Seidler
bei
has
dem
addressed.
Studium
You are
jetzt der
right.
Geschichte der Technischen
When I
Universität den
did
Eindruck
research on the history
alle
of the
Ideen,
TU
alle
Wien,
Probleme,
I also saw
alle
that all the
Herausforderungen
ideas and the
wiederholen sich.
problems and the challenges
Und,
do
das
repeat
bis in die
themselves
heutige Zeit.
up
Und ich
until
möchte auch den
today.
Bogen
And I
spannen
would like to
von der
close
Gründung,
the
von der
bridge here
Gründungsidee
from the
bis zu dem, was uns
idea
heute
of the foundation of
auch
the
noch
TU Wien
bewegt.
to
Möchte aber als
what
heutiger
is important to
Leiter
us
der
today.
Studienhofkommission
But as head of
und
the
damit,
study
Verantwortlicher
commission and the
zuallererst Ihnen
responsible
wirklich sehr
minister, I would
herzlich
first of all
gratulieren,
like
allen
to
voran Ihnen,
congratulate
Frau
all
Rektorin
of you.
Seidler, aber auch
First of all,
allen
of course,
Mitgliedern
to
des
you,
Senats,
Mrs.
des
Seidler, but all the members
Universitätsrates,
of
der
the University
Hochschulerinnenschaft,
Council
allen
of the Students' Union,
Mitarbeiterinnen und
all the
Mitarbeitern
staff and the
ganz,
students. I
ganz
would like to
herzlich
congratulate all of you
zum 200.
to your
Jubiläum
200th
und
birthday and to this
möchte auch
anniversary.
wirklich alles Gute für die
And I
Zukunft
would like to
wünschen.
wish you all the best for the
Es ist für
future
mich
as well.
dieses Jubiläum,
To me, this is
wie für viele von Ihnen der Endpunkt
anniversary,
eines
like for many of you.
Jubiläumsjahres. Ich
It is
habe
the
die Gelegenheit und
end
Möglichkeit
point
gehabt,
of
mit
a
der
whole
Universität
year
Wien,
of
der
anniversaries.
Veterinärmedizinischen
There was the
Universität,
University of
der
Vienna, the
Donau-Universität
Veterinary
Krems
University
und
of Vienna,
vor
the
einem Monat mit der
University of
Montan-Universität
Applied Sciences in
Leoben die
Krems, and
Festakte
the
verbringen zu dürfen.
Montague
Dennoch war die
University in
Technische
Leoben. They have all
Universität
celebrated
eigentlich die erste
anniversaries this year,
Universität,
but the
die sich
TU
in den
Wien
Reihen
is
der
the
ganzen Jubiläen
first
gemeldet hat,
university
unter
that
Anführungszeichen, und zwar akustisch.
addressed me in an
Neujahrskonzertes,
acoustic member in the framework of the New Year's Eve concert. I'm not sure if it's the synthesizer, if the synthesizer is going to make it to become part of the Philharmonic Orchestra, but maybe you remember from the New Year's concert that the ballet was in honor of the University of Technology because they were called acceleration or electromagnetic polka or other names like that. And that was in the framework of the program. And this connection to technology may have been surprising at first, but what you have to know is that the composers, Johann Strauss and Johann Eduard Strauss, were students of the University of Technology. The 2 pieces by Johann Eduard Strauss have also been played the first time at the ballroom dancing event of the University of Technology at that time. Johann von Radinger as well worked with steam engines, and the way how he worked is still the basis for the acceleration of many technical devices that we've also seen to be taken up on during this concert. So we see that all this history is still present. Today. The first real rector of the university, and we've heard that too, because back then they were still called director, was Johann Josef Prechtl, and Emperor Franz I, who commissioned him to do this expert opinion, wanted a polytechnical institute, not a university back then. And it was today, 200 years ago, that this new institute was inaugurated. So if we remember 1815, then that of course also can be associated with the Congress of Vienna. And if we think back at that time, and when you read about this, then we will see that this was not just a time of ballroom dancing, but also a very difficult time. What I read is that in 1809, the Republic was very close to bankrupt. And let's not get into politics of today's republic here, but as we've seen, history does repeat itself. Let's hope that this will not repeat itself. But in 1809, this is what we saw, and in 1811 and 1816, this actually really happened. It's not just Greece who is faced with bankruptcy, but it was also Austria at that time. And this, I think, is where we can see the connection to today. There has always been an effort for new structures, for changes, and we have to consider that the Industrial Revolution at that time was in full force. The Englishmen and the French were way ahead of us back then. Our monarchy was some sort of a federal agricultural state, and what we try to do is foster change, which was only possible when industry and science came together. And many of our problems today, among others also the refugee crisis and the migration crisis, can only be solved if we also look at the possibilities and not just at the challenges. So what we saw back then is that this decision was made to bring science and industry together. And we see that today, that for our competitiveness, we can keep up with those that are ahead of us now and that were ahead of us back then. The director, Josef Prechtl, back then said at his inauguration speech that the Polytechnical Institute is crucial for the progress of industry and for the spread of knowledge, so that the products that this country produces can be enhanced. And this quote as well is still valid today. When it comes to the structure of the foundation, we can also draw comparisons to today and draw comparisons to the challenges of today, because the Polytechnical Institute has always had a very clear profile that was defined legally. Of course, today this is different because we have seen autonomy in the University Act of 2002 ever since for the technological university. But the commercial department and the other department, the technical department, where chemistry and physics and mechanical engineering and civil engineering were considered in there, that was still a very small structure. Today we would say that these are our core competences, and 200 years later the university still faced a challenge to make their profile much clearer and focus on their core competencies and strengths. The TU Wien did just that, and we've heard it, because it defined focus areas in research that go beyond the borders of faculties and therefore enable interdisciplinary work. Prechtl was also convinced that this interdisciplinarity is crucial. Of course, back then the scope was much smaller because the challenges that we face today are different. But thanks to this combination and to the shift in the commercial and the technological department that made for new areas of study and new courses that became possible. So this approach, I think, back then was crucial and still applies today. A second approach that I think was remarkable and still is remarkable is that Prechtl knew that a new institute cannot exist separate from society. So back then already he announced that during holidays that public exhibitions should be carried out and that a journal should be published, so that the awareness and the attention of our audience can be raised, so that knowledge knowledge about what we do at the Institute can be spread. And this still applies today as well, because this should still be one of our main tasks, to explain to society what a university does. We have this responsibility, and we have to face this responsibility also when it comes to research, not just when it comes to teaching. Today, I think we were able to transform this, and the TU Wien does comply with this task. One of the examples for this is that the representatives of the TU Wien have on 26th of October welcomed visitors to try a jump into the future. It was a virtual parachute jump where the University for Children and where there was a student racing team, those things showed so clearly that there's a very strong connection to society and to the public. There's hardly another university that lives their motto as much as the TU does, the motto being technology for the people. We have seen this on various occasions. There was a care robot called Hobbit that was developed and produced within the University of Technology. We've seen that there still needs to be more progress when it comes to this robot, but we've also seen how useful it could be. Global problems like the responsibility of a society and of a university that complies with the needs of society when it comes to sustainable, when it comes to the pollution of our environment and the scarcity of resources, when it comes to mobility, when it comes to all these challenges, that TU Wien is at the forefront of progress here. I don't want to address the discussion that our Rector has made, how other developments can be defined and identified. We saw that yesterday at the Science Council. We had a very exciting discussion where we discussed the State Fundamental Law of 1867. And the discussion, I think, is never at a finish point, because there are contradictions, but it is always a very exciting discourse to face. Another point that I would like to draw upon is where we are going. Of course, we are part of a knowledge society. There's a huge international competitiveness, and it comes down to the foundation of the first industrial revolution, and now we are facing the fourth industrial revolution, where the first one brought about mechanic production, where looms were invented, and all these new inventions in 1870. Mass production in Chicago evolved in a slaughterhouse, where distribution of labor evolved for the first time, which also spread to other countries and other continents. Many discussions were fostered there. In 1870, with the third industrial revolution, with regard to electronics and the invention of the internet. And now we're facing the fourth industrial revolution. And to be quite frank, ladies and gentlemen, we don't really have to talk about the fourth industrial revolution, but we can talk about the Internet of Things. The possibilities that we see here are unfathomable just yet, because, of course, we're afraid that we will lose the labor force through technology, but really this is not the reality, because new business models can evolve. Just think of not just the industrial production, but to hotels, taxi companies. Everything can be organized by the internet. So there's a huge potential through the internet. So 4.0 is really a new era that we're facing and that we're seeing. And in this context, I do think that the TU Wien especially, and we've seen that at our festivities in the last few days, we saw the aspects and the impact that what the universities do has in so many levels of society. I think we still have to face many more discussions and see many more discourses that will come up in the course of the University of Technology. In theory, there is a clear distinction between education and training in universities, but of course these are discussions that we have to make. There are still people that we are still lacking in different areas of industry. There's lots of need on different levels, which of course tells us how we have to cooperate more and even closer. And this is where I come to my ending point. What we see here is that science really is just economy, is industry, is business. It's not a linear process. Many people think that basic research is followed by applied research and then by application in industry, but it's not like that. It all happens at the same time. It's a circle and not a linear movement. So this discussion is really in vain, but we will have it. We will have this discussion in public still. What I'd like to see is, and I'd like to mention the movie Back to the Future here. We've seen that the Ministry for Transport has taken up on this movie, and I think, and I'm sure that the TU Wien will make the invention that we've seen in the movie. I'm sure there's work on this already, and that way we can make contributions to the future. Of course, the movie is called Back to the Future, and I think we should go forth into the future. And in this context, I would like to wish the TU Wien and all of us the best for the coming years.
Vielen Dank für diese Worte.
Thank you for this talk. I would like to add this hoverboard really already exists, but you cannot use it on every type of ground. Now I would like to ask the Federal President, Mr. Heinz Fischer, to give us his talk. Welcome to you, Mr. President.
Hochgeschätzte Frau Rektorin der
Rector
Universität Wien,
of the TU Wien,
Wissenschaftsminister,
Vice President,
verehrte Gäste aus dem
and
Ausland,
Minister,
meine Damen und Herren.
distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen.
Im amerikanischen Kongress gibt es
And the American Congress,
die Möglichkeit, wenn Zeitdruck
representatives have
besteht, ihre Rede
the possibility, if
beim
there are time
Vorsitzenden
constraints,
Präsidenten
to
abzugeben mit der Bitte,
deliver
sie
their
ins
speech
Protokoll
to the
einzuverleiben
chairperson
und dann nur
and to
ein
ask
paar
to
Worte
integrate
zu
it in the
sagen.
agenda and
Das ist
just to
eine
say a few
Vorgehensweise,
words.
die sich
This is a
eigentlich nicht eignet
method
für
that
das
is
Jubiläum einer
not
technischen
really appropriate
Universität.
for a university
Aber
anniversary,
es ist eine traurige Tatsache, dass der
but it
frühere
is
ungarische
a sad fact that the former Hungarian President Apad Göncz has died a few days ago, and his funeral will take place this afternoon, and I must not be late. And my schedule was to be here from 10 to 11, and secondly, I was asked to just say a few words only. So I will meet this request, and I will deliver my script by mail to the rector. Maybe there will be some brochure where it can be published, and there will be files for sure, even at the University of Technology.
Es ist auffällig, dass wir innerhalb weniger Tage
Within a few days, we celebrate the anniversary of 200 years of the Vienna Congress and of the University of Technology as well. And this is probably not a coincidence, because the Vienna Congress was a long was the end of a long period of wars and questions of survival. And at the end of the Napoleonic Wars, there was a European peace system established in a long-term conference, and the project of a polytechnical schools was put into practice, and this is very telling about the quality of this project when we hear how it has developed and how it is today. In the field of science and technology, it is always interesting to look at the relationship between the freedom of science and freedom of research and ethic responsibility. Freedom of science is incorporated in the basic law of the state, and it's still valid today. And in the course of time, the question has come up again and again whether everything that you can do, you are allowed to do. And how do you deal with a situation when science opens up possibilities where there are objections for ethical reasons, and how you can take these objections seriously without limiting the freedom of science? I think this is an issue that we can discuss on the occasion of such an anniversary. I was always interested, and it also impressed me when I heard the oth of graduates, and I was often present at graduation ceremonies when students graduate and they take an oath to serve science, to promote its objectives, and in doing so, contribute responsibly to resolving the problems of society. This responsibility to contributing to resolving the problems of human society is a task that goes way beyond what you learn in terms of scientific information, but this is closely related to what a scientist and an engineer has to take into consideration. And if I had more time, I would have talked about this in more detail, but I would like to ask you to allow me to congratulate the university on this anniversary. My first contacts with the TU, I'm a legal expert, but during election campaigns in the student union 1960, 1961, I had my first contacts with the University of Technology. As a Minister of Science in the 1980s, I was involved with the university, or the university had to deal with me, if you want to look at it that way. In the past few years, I attended the university at many graduations. I think in 11 days' time, I will be here again. This is also in my script. But today, I would like to thank you all the faculty members, all the students. I would like to wish everyone great success. I would like to thank the students who also accomplish a lot, and I wish you all the best for the next 200 years. And I have to leave now.
Ja, danke vielmals. Natürlich haben wir Verständnis dafür.
Thank you, Mr. President. Of course, we understand your other obligations. But we'll now go on to another piece of music played by the quintet of, by the Wind Quintet, and they will play Alexander's Ragtime Band by over in Berlin.
Danke, dass Sie heute bei uns spielen.
Thank you for playing here today.
Kommen wir nun zum
Now I would like to move on with the image video technology for people, and I would like to add a few words. The Association of Friends of the Film Academy in Vienna made there was a competition for a tender for the image video for the anniversary, and the idea was to address both the interested public and also the non-interested public, and to excite them about the University of Technology. All students of the Film Academy of Vienna were invited, and the award-winning project by Martin Meyer was presented at the gala night here at the Kuppelsaal, and it was replaced by it was implemented in a video.
My name is Julia Linnert, and I've been studying electrical engineering and information technology for 6 semesters at TU Wien. Even as a child, I was already fascinated by technology, especially by robots. Just like for rhythmic gymnastics, for robotics, you not only need to know the technology, but you also need to have the imagination to create something new. Later, I want to work in medical robotics in order to make life easier for people with physical disabilities. I'm sure that I will reach my goals soon, thanks to the good networking between the TU and the industry.
I love to see the big picture and working together with colleagues from different departments. As part of the research focus, Energy and Environment at the TU Wien, 50 colleagues and 8 different departments have developed this award-winning Plus Energy building, in which we're sitting right now.
TU Wien has always proved independence and consistency in its 200 years of existence. That is why we have successfully built the first Plus Energy office building here. And actually, it is the most amazing building in the world.
I'm Christoph Ramachan. I'm a research group leader at the Institute of Materials Chemistry. With our research, we want to enable the development of less expensive and more efficient catalysts. The high-performance infrastructure and great service of the university are extremely helpful for our research. Much more important, however, is that we're working together across departmental and disciplinary boundaries. For study and research, teamwork is extremely important, and so far I've only witnessed this kind of open collaboration at TU Wien.
It inspires me to work with outstanding people. That's why I decided to change from the private industry to TU Wien. Our research focus is the Internet of Things and cloud computing, and here we deal with smart cities in particular. We publish a lot in this field and create software prototypes which receive a lot of international attention. I've opted for Vienna because Vienna is a beautiful city, and I appreciate its cultural offerings.
My name is Judith Engel. I am project manager of Vienna's Central Station. After studying civil engineering at TU Wien, I've spent a few years working in the field. I then very quickly got the opportunity to take on this great challenge. This has occupied me for about 10 years of my life. It went off smoothly, and I'm very proud of what we have achieved here. During my studies, I was able to gather valuable expert knowledge, but also to establish friendships and contacts that still accompany me in my professional life.
Danke, das war beeindruckend. Geburtstage sind doch etwas
Thank you, that was very
Schönes.
impressive.
Man darf nicht nur
Anniversaries are a
sich auch
beautiful thing.
feiern,
There's not just
sondern man darf sich auch etwas
nice
wünschen.
people around
So darf ich nun Denise
one another,
Schaffer
but we can also express wishes. So now I'd like to welcome Andreas Potucek from the Students' Union of the University of Technology of Vienna, who has a few wishes for the future of the TU Wien.
Sehr geehrter Herr Vizekanzler, sehr geehrte Frau Rektorin,
Vice Chancellor, Rector Seidler, Magnificencies, dear guests. My name is Denise Schaffer, and this is my colleague Andreas Potucek. We are part of the board of the Students' Union at the TU Wien, in short HTU. We are honored to also address a speech to this festivity because we represent the largest group of persons at the university, the students. 200 years of TU Wien, 200 years of technology for people. In the last 200 years, people have implemented visions at this university, and we too have visions. Our task was to present to you a bit of a different kind of speech, and with the images and pictures that we'll show you, we would like to express our wishes for the university because it is the core of our professional and sometimes also our private life. So this is our first series of pictures with regard to a spatial level. The TU Wien has assigned rooms to its students where they can study. But because of the growing number of students at the TU, there is a problem when it comes to enough space for studying or also for lecture halls. There are not enough lecture halls. That leads to students often being forced to study in the hallways or on the floors of lecture halls. So our wish is that there will be more room for this in the future. When it comes with regard to time, our wish is that there will be more time for a balance between studying and family. The TU Wien has, together with us, collaborated to establish offers for staff to have childcare offers within the TU Wien. Especially when it comes to young and active students who have children, they often face huge obstacles when it comes to finances so that they can study. So what we would like from society is support when it comes to creating more offers for childcare. We would also like to have a family allocation that considers the situation that parents are in so that family and studies can be balanced. When it comes to participation and new ideas, we want to address the conflict of generations. Of course, all the generations would like to participate in shaping our university, but as students, we want to be part of this too. In the Senate, us students are only represented by about a quarter of the mandates, despite being the largest group of persons. So what we would like to have in the future, what our wish is to have a balanced relation between staff members on an academic and on a non-academic level, because this lopsidedness in generations exists on different levels, even up to parliament. After the elections in 2013, only 20 people in parliament were under 40 years and only 2 of them were under 30. This lopsidedness leads to the fact that all the generations can make decisions over the heads of others. We can see an example for that when it comes to our pension system. Many people from our generation are trying to accept the fact that they will not get pension systems that they can actually live on once they retire. So what we would like for the future is a Gaussian distribution that is fair to all the people, that has a median value of 45 so that everyone gets a fair amount of money, and that sustainable decisions are made by politicians where they don't just think of the next election. Thank you. When it comes to education, of course, this is very important for a university. In order to facilitate starting universities for young students, the TU offers a wide range of courses. We often have courses that prepare students for their first exams. These preparation courses and tests wouldn't even be necessary if high school graduation exams would be accepted as what they should really be, namely preparing young pupils for university. So what we would like for the future is that the quality of teaching and the academic quality in schools will improve so that pupils are well prepared to tackle the next step and to be able to change to university more smoothly. When it comes to education, there's also another aspect, because graduates from the TU Wien are often asked to become part of the teaching staff, regardless of whether they have actually taken didactics courses. So what we would like to see in the future is that these people are prepared better to comply with the challenges that teaching science bring about. We would like to see more third-party funds for this purpose. We would also like to propose that the ratio between professors and students has to improve, and that decisions in the National Council face these challenges when it comes to the legal questions that have to be prepared to bring this about. When it comes to thriving, we need to quote Immanuel Kant, who says that gaining knowledge means becoming a new person. Just imagine a person who was very good at school and would now like to change over to university. They are met with new systems and new structures, and they have to face all of this alone. They have to manage their schedule, they have to manage enrolling, they have to manage probably taking on a part-time job so that they can afford studying. They have to be stress resistant, they have to perform on a very high level, they have to take internships that are often non-paid. Often they will also start working on projects and become part of working groups while still having to work for a very low wage. Of course, this broadens students' horizons, while at the same time they still have to face the perception of society that sees them as lazy students. So what we'd like to see in the future is that students are accepted and acknowledged by society, and that society is aware of the sacrifices that they have to make, so that they can actually gain know-how and knowledge, so that Austria as a place of education can thrive in the future. Because there is always need for new developments and for progress. Vienna and its population will grow further in the future. The spatial problem that we have mentioned will remain. It will even grow bigger. When it comes to energy production and pollution, these figures will also rise. The TU Wien here works a lot with sustainability. The chemist Michael Schön has been awarded the Ernst Fehrer Prize for sustainability because he developed bio-based plastics and bio-based residual resources, which is another important achievement of the TU Wien. A plus energy office tower has also been developed by the TU Wien. These buildings use solar and photovoltaic energy to produce more energy than they actually need. So there are many important achievements, but when it comes to sustainability, Austria can still go further and maybe be inspired by other countries. In Singapore, for example, a so-called bionic city has been developed, where so-called super trees gather energy from sunlight, also serve as vertical gardens, and transfer carbon dioxide into oxygen. So in order to reduce our need for energy and in order to reduce our pollution emissions, we would like to see in the future that this development for sustainable technologies goes on in the future. We're very happy that the cooperation at the TU Wien works so well despite some differences that we have. We often meet with various stakeholders. People ask us for our opinions and about our points of view, and this will also become part of the projects that people are working on. So what we'd like to see in the future is that this cooperation will continue further. Thank you for your attention.
Vielen herzlichen Dank.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll take over again, and that means that we've come to the end of our academic festivities. What remains to be done for me is to thank you all. Time is valuable, and so we really appreciate that you took your time to come here. I would especially like to thank Mr. President and Mr. Vice Chancellor, Ms. Ullmann, and our students, and everyone else who participated in the functioning and the success of these festivities. Among these, also the members of our TU Orchestra, who've given us the musical background to our festivities. I'd also like to thank all my colleagues at the different other locations of these academic festivities that have watched the live streaming, and I would like to invite you to cheer with me to our common future. Dear guests here, I would like to ask you to follow me to the other hall later on and maybe also make an entry into our guest book. We will now hear the Austrian national anthem and the European national anthem. Please stand up.